The solo carry list for 25.7 will feature Lucian making his way into the top 3 for ADC. Singed is now one of the best top laners for the lower elos, and Naafiri has taken over the jungle meta. The picks featured in this guide are the best for solo carrying in solo queue right now, but our Smurf commentaries allow you to truly exploit just how good they really are. Simply select the champion you're looking for, find the latest game, and watch how challengers use them in the elo you play in, where they walk you through exactly what you need to do to carry, even if your teammates are inting. And if that isn't enough, the challenger player will answer any questions you have guaranteed. We upload at least 10 of these every week, and the champions played are always based on the best picks in the current meta with the best build. So check out SkillCapped after this using the link below if you're interested. And with that said, let's get into it. So a top lane champion who you should highly consider adding to your champion pool, especially if you're plat or below, is Singed. Singed just got a massive change last patch that makes him so much more powerful for the average player. You no longer need to last hit minions with Singed as long as your poison from Q is ticking on them when they die. You'll automatically be granted the gold even if your minion is the one that gets the killing blow. This has made the early laning of Singed incredible because securing last hits is almost guaranteed now. And in the lower elos, just being able to generate an advantage throughout CSing your opponent will have you climbing the ranks on its own, so Singed is a bit of a low elo cheat code now. You also don't really need to know how to proxy on Singed in order to get good value out of him now, so overall he's just way better for solo queue. Strong lane bullies are who you are going to want to try and avoid playing against when picking Singed, so using your ban on a meta pick like Darius is a good idea. The standard build for Singed consists of a Leandri's Rush into Rylai's second, and from then on out, it's situational. Grab Conqueror for the Keystone Rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Last Stand, while Second Wind and Overgrowth are for secondaries. Continuing to be one of the best solo carry champs across all elo brackets is Urgot. Urgot is one of the best blind pickable top laners because of how powerful his early game is. Few top laners can contest Urgot at level 1, which allows him to get the level 2 jump on his opponents and take control of the lane. This is because you take Urgot's E at level 1, and since the ability provides you with CC and a shield, few champs have a spell at level 1 which can match the power of Urgot's E. This makes spending the time on Urgot and learning his matchups very rewarding because being able to take control of the lane right from the jump sets you up to win lane in every game. To really take your trading to another level, our new top lane course is the perfect resource as we go more into detail about abusing your level 1 along with many more concepts that will have you smashing lanes as a top laner. Swiftness boots are just so powerful on Urgot for this season too, so unless the enemy team is full AD, in which case going for steel caps will be great value, opting for swiftness boots will be the play in the majority of your games. Mid-game spike of Urgot is amazing as you rush Black Cleaver and go into Steric's Gauge second. The mix of damage and durability that this core build has to offer is perfect for solo queue because it makes Urgot more forgiving than the average bruiser. One matchup you really want to avoid when picking Urgot is Vayne, as it's really only ranged top laners who can give the pick issues. For Urgot's rune setup, you can't go wrong with taking Press the Attack in every single game. However, if you're up against a ranged top laner, then opting for Phase Rush is quite underrated. Something worth noting as well is that more and more high elo Urgot players have been swapping over to taking Inspiration in secondaries instead of Resolve and grabbing Magical Footwear with Approach Velocity. Urgot's all about early game dominance, but if you want to play a top laner with better scaling capabilities, there's nobody better than Kayle right now. This season has been really good for Kayle because the addition of the Bloody Petals and those providing you with more XP gets Kayle to her level 16 faster, especially if your team is able to take down Ruinous Otacon to where you then gain the Bushel of Petals. They provide you with a whole level worth of experience, which is amazing for Kayle. Top lane meta is great for Kayle right now too, with her winning over 55% of the time in her two most common matchups being Darius and Garen. Early game isn't necessarily Kayle favored into those two, but if you can reach level 6 without dying and you've got your R available, Kayle R just does a really good job at shutting down the kill threat of Darius and Garen the longer games last. The one matchup that Kayle players are really struggling to win against in meta is Teemo. Teemo's range advantage allows him to bully Kayle early on in lane, and then his blind does a good job at limiting Kayle's DPS power due to a reliance on auto-attacking to deal damage. The meta build for Kayle consists of a Nashor's Tooth Rush into Rabadon second and Lichbane third. You can either run Press the Attack or Lethal Tempo on Kayle. A general rule that you can follow is if you're playing into a tank or a more tanky comp, then going for Lethal Tempo will be better, but into more squishy champs, Press the Attack will be of better value. Absolutely exploding in power and popularity last patch due to her mini rework and making her way into the jungle top 3 for 25.7 is Naafiri. We do have a couple of nerfs being issued to Naafiri for this patch, but we don't see them being enough to take away her high standing in meta. If you like those junglers with strong skirmishing power, then Naafiri is top tier in that regard right now. The literal 1v9 potential that Naafiri has with her reset on R and low cooldown mobility from E makes her a monster if she gets ahead. And oh yeah, Naafiri now has untargetability on her W, so being able to dodge high impact spells gives her incredible outplay potential. Looking at some of the matchup stats for Naafiri last patch is insane, as she was winning over 56% of the time into Lee Sin, 50 54% against Viego, 57% against Graves, which is just absurd. Now, the one matchup the Naafiri players had a negative win rate against in 25.6 was Nocturne. With Nocturne's Spell Shield, it makes it very difficult for Naafiri to be the aggressor in the matchup. As Naafiri locks on with her R, Noct can just Spell Shield all the damage for free and then turn the fight in his favor. So just use your ban on Nocturne and you're golden. Build-wise, it's a Bruiser setup that you will be running with an Eclipse Rush into Black Cleaver 2nd and Spear of Shojin 3rd. Conqueror is the optimal Keystone rune with Triumph, Haste, and Coup de Grace, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. So back in the top 3 for jungle for a second patch in a row is going to be Jarvan. Last patch we did see Gwen and Lilia jump up to being quite powerful in meta, but with Riot nerfing both of them for 25.7, it's going to solidify Jarvan as a top 3 jungler. Jarvan did just get buffed last patch, which is the reason for his rise in meta. What's so great about Jarvan is his ability to impact the early game very well. Gank power is incredible, and as long as you're playing towards the lane that has some CC set up for you, securing early kills isn't all that difficult. If you've got a melee support like Braum, Leona, or Nautilus, then pathing down towards bot lane will be most ideal. Let's say you have an Enchanter support though, while your top lane is playing Riven, pathing towards top will be the higher percent play. A lot of your success with Jarvan is going to come from your pre-game approach. Just analyzing your comp and loading screen and having a set plan as to which side of the map you're going to path towards is very important. Meta build for Jarvan consists of an Eclipse Rush into Sundered Sky 2nd and either Spirit Visage or Frozen Heart 3rd. Roll with Conqueror for the Keystone rune, followed by Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, while Free Boots and Cosmic Insight are for secondaries. And for our third solo carry jungler of the patch, it's going to be Xin Zhao. Just buffed last patch, Xin is on a very similar power level to Jarvan, contesting him for the best ganking jungler in meta. Xin really excels in those smaller skirmishes, where his single target damage can thrive a lot more. Xin Zhao's straight up 5v5 teamfight impact is not as strong as many other junglers, so finding those catch plays when enemies are split from their team is how you're going to find the most success with the champ. In a 3v3 where you can stick onto a target and knock the other enemies away from you with R is where the champ will thrive the most. If you can obtain an early game lead with Xin, his ability to run away with the game is better than most junglers due to his ability to stat check his enemies. A Xin with a lead takes very little skill to execute because the majority of his damage is point and click. So as long as you're able to get in range of the enemies, you'll be winning fights with ease. In order to secure those early game leads, heavy focus on playing towards whichever lane provides you with the best gank setup is key. For Shin's core build, it's going to be a Titanic Hydra Rush into Sundered Sky 2nd and Black Cleaver 3rd. Run Conqueror for the Keystone rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. It's not all that often we feature the same champion in multiple roles for our solo carry videos, but right now Naafiri is as good of a mid laner as she is a jungler. Naafiri is even getting a compensation buff to her Q minion damage, so she's not getting nerfed as hard as jungle. With the vulnerability being added to Naafiri W, it makes certain matchups very favored for her. As long as you're playing around W cooldown, you're able to completely avoid taking damage from one of your opponent's key spells, which allows you to win out in early trades. One matchup that Naafiri has seen a big win rate spike against is Zed. If Zed ever tries to be the aggressor and dives in with his R on you, you're just able to use W and completely negate any follow-up damage so that his R deals next to nothing. To get really good at the new Naafiri, a lot of it comes down to thinking about when will be the best time to use your W in a trade. Say for example, you're playing against Sylas. You can dash right in on him for a quick trade with your E, and then save your W to then escape right after. If Sylas tries to re-engage on you with his E, then that's when you can pop your W to completely negate any of his return trade power. Matchups that Naafiri mid is struggling more against are champs who have strong consistent DPS to where her W untargetability gains less value. Yasuo has been the matchup Naafiri has had the lowest win rate against over the past patch, so he's a good ban to consider. There are two viable builds for Naafiri mid lane right now, as you can go for the standard lethality setup or run the same bruiser setup that we're seeing in the jungle. Lethality will be best into comps that are more squishy, while bruiser is best played when up against other bruisers or tanks. Hail of Blades will be the Keystone rune that you run when playing the lethality build, and then you can take Conqueror if you're going for the bruiser build. One mid laner who continues to rise in popularity patch after patch and whose power level is also one of the highest for any mid is Ahri. Right now there just isn't another mid laner that can contest Ahri as that strong blind pickable mid. Laning phase of Ahri isn't anything special, but there are a few champs who can really punish her early on, and then when you reach level 6 with Ahri is when you really get to start playing the game. Making plays with your jungler is how you're going to find a lot of success with Ahri post level 6, especially when those grubs spawn. Junglers in the lower ranks love to just start them up without a thought as to who has lane priority in top or mid, so if you can be the one to acquire that push in lane and rotate first, finding an easy catch on the enemy jungler can snowball the game from there. What makes Ahri so great is her ability to fish for those aggressive catch plays without ever actually putting herself in danger. You've got 3 dash charges with R and gain bonus charges on takedowns, so it just opens up for a very low risk, high reward playstyle, which is so effective for solo queue. There isn't really a must ban matchup for Ahri in solo queue, but based on the highest played champs in meta right now, either Syndra or Yasuo are two of her better ban options. There's even a new build that has popped up for Ahri this patch that's providing her additional power, and we'll go into more detail on it in this week's OP builds video. The build consists of a Rod of Ages rush into Liandry's 2nd and Riftmaker 3rd. For the rune page, you're grabbing Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Grizzly Mementos, and Ultimate Hunter, followed by Mana Flow and Transcendence for secondaries. Many of the strongest champs for mid lane right now are ones who are being played at a much lower rate. One of those champs is Quinn, and we'll be featuring her for our 3rd solo carry selection of the patch. So Quinn mid is definitely more of an off-meta pick, as you see her played way more as a top laner. However, she's actually way more powerful when played in the mid lane. What makes Quinn mid so insane for solo queue is her ability to dominate lane and then spread that lead with her roam power. Quinn has one of the most brain-dead yet broken trading patterns for any champion at level 1. In melee matchups, you start your E and you just look to completely zone the enemy from the wave. If they walk up, then you E right on top of them, proc Electrocute, and then take over 30% of their health bar. You can literally win lane at level 1 with Quinn mid, which is not something many other mid laners can do. Ranged matchups can be a little more difficult to play into, but our challenger expert Shori actually has a full game commentary on our website where he's going up against a Mel mid, and he shows you exactly how you can look to navigate those ranged matchups. It's just the longer range catch mids that you want to avoid playing into, so using your ban on Syndra or Lux is a good idea. The build is really important to get right on Quinn because it's one of the reasons to why she's so good right now. You rush Symbiotic Souls for your boots, and you can play for a very cheesy strategy. Shori highlighted this really well in his full game commentary, but basically, because Symbiotic Souls gives you the empowered recall, you're able to take really aggressive trades in lane, shove the wave in, base, and then come back to lane on full health without missing any minions while the enemy is chunked, so you can take complete control of the lane. After going Symbiotic Souls, the standard core build consists of a Profane Hydra rush into the Collector 2nd and Edge of Night 3rd. For Quinn's rune page, you should be taking Electrocute with Sudden Impact, Grizzly Mementos, and Treasure Hunter, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are the optimal secondaries. Back in meta for the first time this season and making his way into the top 3 for ADC is Lucian. Buff last patch was amazing for Lucian because it was a buff to his ability to play more aggressive in lane, which is exactly the kind of change that he wanted. A 3-second lower cooldown on E provides you with more windows of opportunity, as the spell is so important in allowing Lucian to trade effectively. Braum being in meta for support, Yuumi actually being a viable champ again, and Nami being one of the most played supports makes Lucian's spot in meta even better, as those are 3 of his best duos. You really want to be able to win lane on Lucian to get the most out of him, so using your ban on a support who can do a good job at matching your early game power like a Karma is a good idea. The best build for Lucian right now consists of an Essence Reaver rush with Flicker Blades and Infinity Edge interchanged as 2nd and 3rd items, i.e. 2nd is going to work best when into more squishy comps, while Flicker Blades 2nd is best into bruisers or tanks. For the rune page on Lucian, you should be taking Press the Attack with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cut Down, followed by Free Boots and Biscuits for secondaries. If you like those ADCs who can be more aggressive, making plays on their own without needing their support to engage first, then this meta is perfect for you, as Tristana is the 2nd solo carry ADC of the patch. Tristana is absolutely amazing for ADC right now, as she's slowly but surely climbed in priority due to other ADCs around her getting nerfed, and because of how strong she is with her mid-game spiking build. The DPS power that Yuntal Wild Arrows into Infinity Edge provides absolutely trumps everything else on 2 items, and gives Tristana a godlike mid-game spike. The Collector is a viable rush item too, as it will offer up more damage on your 1-item spike, so if you're ahead early on, and especially if paired with an aggro melee support, then going for the Collector is still an option so that you can snowball harder early on. And then for 3rd item on Tristana, it's going to be Navori Flicker Blades. Meta supports who can shut down your early game all-in power are who you should consider banning when picking Tristana, so Braum or Karma are 2 good options right now. For Tristana's rune page, it's going to be Lethal Tempo for most games. However, if you're with a melee engaged support, you can consider taking Press the Attack so that your early game all-in power is stronger. And then back in the top 3 for 25.7 after her nerfs from last patch really didn't hit that hard at all is Jinx. The nerf only resulted in less than a 0.5% drop in win rate for Jinx, so it was not enough to force her down in priority. Jinx and Tristana are 2 ADCs that we absolutely love right now because they have incredible mid-game power spikes that give you a very clear win condition to play for. Both champs thrive with the core build of Wild Arrows into Infinity Edge, as the DPS power on those 2 items is unmatched. The fact that Wild Arrow's passive provides you with all that bonus attack speed lets you go for Infinity Edge 2nd instead of an attack speed item, and just stack all that raw AD so your autos hurt extremely hard. A lot of Jinx players are still opting for Hurricane 2nd, but for solo queue specifically, more single target damage is often going to be way more impactful than bonus splash damage, as getting that first kill in a fight is so important for Jinx due to her passive proccing on takedowns and completely unlocking her as a champion. Enemies escaping with a sliver of health and Jinx not getting that passive proc can make or break teamfights, so prioritizing Infinity Edge before Hurricane will be the better play over a large enough sample size. Since Jinx is an ADC who lacks a gap closer, banning out a meta dive champ is always a good idea, and right now Jarvan or Nefiri are 2 of your best best options. The optimal rune page for Jinx is going to revolve around Lethal Tempo with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cutdown, while Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm are for secondaries. If you are someone who enjoys playing melee supports, then Braum should most definitely be in your champion pool for 25.7. Braum is just miles ahead of all other melee supports right now, as his top tier skirmish power makes him so good for Season 15. When fighting over early grubs or fighting around Otacon, there really isn't another support I'd rather have on my team than Braum. Braum's ability to block a mass amount of damage with his E while at the same time providing constant stuns on multiple targets due to his passive allows Braum to excel in skirmishes. With the rise of more aggressive ADCs being played in meta, it's really nice for Braum too, as he pairs up amazing with Lucian and Tristana. The Braum-Jinx duo is absolutely deadly too, with it winning over 54% of the time. The only ADC you really want to avoid playing with when picking Braum is Jhin, as his reload mechanic and slow auto attacks have really bad synergy with Braum's passive. There's just one matchup that Braum players have had an overly negative win rate against in recent patches, and it's Senna, so she's a good ban to consider. Build for Braum consists of a Locket Rush into Knight's Vow 2nd, while Solstice Slay is the item upgrade. You should be taking Guardian for the Keystone Rune with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching, followed by Biscuits and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. So over the past two patches, we have seen nerfs to both Karma and Lulu, which gives Nami even more separation as the best solo queue enchanter. On top of this, we just saw Lucian buffed, which is amazing for Nami, so everything has been trending in her favor as of late. What makes Nami so great for solo queue is her ability to not only buff up her carries really well, but also initiate fights on her own. Most other enchanters solely rely on their team to start fights, but with Nami's R, she has the ability to press the go button herself and capitalize on enemies being out of position. Early on in lane with Nami, it's all about outlasting your opponent and really taking advantage of the healing she has from W. If the enemy support does not have any healing, even trades are actually winning trades for Nami, so initially taking shorter burst trades to whittle the enemy down so that you've got the health advantage can allow you to take over the lane. The big spike for Nami is on her Imperial Mandate completion, as it provides her carry with a bunch of additional damage. Moonstone and Shurelya's are generally the best second pickups on Nami, Shurelya's into heavier dive comps, and Moonstone otherwise. Supports with strong catch power are who you'll want to avoid playing into, and with Thresh in meta right now, he's a good ban. For Nami's rune page, look to grab Aerie with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by Bone Plating and Revitalize for secondaries. With no significant changes to support for 25.7, the solo carry list won't be changing at all for this patch, with Thresh back in the top 3. Thresh is a really great support to learn because he has so many ways to impact games. It can be through finding catch plays with his hook, saving teammates with his lantern, or getting a good roam off towards mid lane. It's important to rush swiftness boots on Thresh, as having that bonus movement speed before many other champions have finished their tier 2 boots allows you to skirmish much better in the early game. If you have more movement speed than your opponent, it allows you to just walk right up to them, hit them with E for the slow, and then line up a very easy hook. After going for boots of swiftness, you pick up a Locket for your first core item, and then go into Knight's Vow 2nd. Solstice Slay is going to be the item upgrade. Braum is definitely the ban you want to be prioritizing right now when picking Thresh, as Braum's peel power and re-engage strength makes it really hard for Thresh to capitalize on hook plays. For the Keystone Rune, you can't go wrong with taking Aftershock in every game, but Guardian does actually have the higher win rate. Guardian can be really good on Thresh if you're playing against a more bursty bot lane duo with strong all-in power. For example, a Lucian Braum or a Tristana Nautilus. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit skillcapped.com and see the difference. So that's going to be all for this one. Those are 3 of the best champions for every single role in patch 25.7. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.